You're married to the Emperor of Rome. You're standing in a public ceremony, marrying another man while your husband watches from the palace. This isn't divorce. You're still Empress. This isn't secret. Half of Rome is watching. This is your third public marriage this year. Your husband is Claudius, the most powerful man on earth. You're Messalina, and you've discovered that being Empress means no one can stop you from doing anything. You're born Valeria Messalina around 17 or 20 AD into one of Rome's most prestigious patrician families. Your bloodline is impeccable. You're descended from Augustus's sister Octavia, making you part of the imperial family by birth. This ancestry will open doors that remain closed to other Roman women, but it will also trap you in a world where your value is measured entirely by your ability to produce legitimate heirs and maintain family honor. Your childhood is typical for a girl of your class. You're educated in the arts, music, and literature, appropriate for a future wife of someone important. But you're also raised with the constant awareness that you're special, that your blood makes you better than common Romans, that normal rules don't quite apply to people like you. This sense of aristocratic privilege will later metastasize into something far more dangerous. You're married to Claudius when you're approximately 15 years old. He's in his late 40s, a man whom the rest of the imperial family has always considered an embarrassment. He stammers, he limps, he drools sometimes, and he's been mocked his entire life for his physical disabilities. The family has kept him away from public life, convinced he's unfit for any position of real authority. Your marriage to him is political calculation, your family connecting itself to the imperial line through a man everyone assumes will never actually rule. But you're young, beautiful, and from a powerful family, marrying an older man everyone ridicules. The power dynamic is clear from the beginning. Claudius may be your husband-in-law, but you quickly realize he's desperate for your approval, grateful for your presence, willing to overlook almost anything to keep you satisfied. This is your first taste of the power that beauty and aristocratic confidence can wield over men, even men who should be your masters. You bear him two children, Claudia Octavia and Britannicus, fulfilling your primary obligation as a Roman wife. But motherhood doesn't satisfy you the way it's supposed to. You find the role confining, boring, a waste of your youth and energy. You're a descendant of Augustus, married to a man who seems pathetic, living in relative obscurity, while your beauty and vitality are consumed by domestic duties. Everything changes in 41 AD, when Emperor Caligula is assassinated by his own Praetorian guards. The imperial succession is thrown into chaos. Caligula had been erratic, possibly insane, and his death leaves no clear heir. The Praetorian Guard, needing to quickly install someone, anyone, to prevent civil war, finds Claudius hiding behind a curtain in the palace, terrified he'll be killed next. In one of history's strangest twists, the man everyone considered unfit for public life becomes Emperor of Rome, and you, his young wife, who married him expecting a quiet life in the shadows, suddenly become Empress, the most powerful woman in the known world. You're approximately 21 years old. Your husband commands 30 legions. The wealth of an empire is at your disposal, and there's no one to tell you no. The transformation is immediate and intoxicating. Where you were once confined to domestic spaces, you now have access to the entire imperial palace. Where you once had to manage a household, you now influence the governance of 60 million people. Where you once had to be modest and retiring, you now find that people bow when you enter rooms, that your slightest wish is treated as command, that the normal rules governing women's behavior simply don't apply to the Empress. Claudius, grateful to be emperor and insecure about his position, depends on you heavily. He values your opinions, seeks your counsel, includes you in ways that previous emperors never included their wives. You sit in on governmental meetings. You have your own network of informants and supporters. You influence appointments to important positions. This involvement in politics is unprecedented for a Roman woman, and it feeds something in you that domestic life never could. But power and influence aren't enough. You're young, beautiful, full of appetites that your stammering, aging husband cannot satisfy. And you've discovered that being empress means the traditional constraints on female behavior, the expectations of modesty, fidelity, and restraint, are optional. Who's going to stop you? Who has the authority to tell the empress no? Your affairs begin relatively discreetly, or at least as discreetly as an empress can manage. You take lovers from among the palace freedmen and young aristocrats who frequent the court. These early liaisons are driven by physical desire and the thrill of transgression, but they also serve a political purpose. You're building a network of men who are personally devoted to you, who owe their positions and privileges to your favor. What starts as individual affairs evolves into something more systematic. You begin treating sexual access as a form of patronage, the way other powerful Romans distribute money or positions. Ambitious young men learn that the path to advancement runs through your bedchamber. You cultivate a circle of lovers who serve as your agents in Roman politics, using your sexuality as a tool of power in ways that are simultaneously shocking and brutally effective. The palace staff knows what's happening. Your slaves and freedwomen are complicit, helping arrange encounters and maintain the schedule of your liaisons. Some serve as procurers, identifying attractive men and bringing them to your attention. Others act as lookouts, ensuring Claudius doesn't accidentally interrupt. The entire imperial household becomes organized around facilitating your desires while maintaining the fiction of propriety. But you're not just collecting lovers, you're collecting power. Each affair creates bonds of complicity and obligation. The men who sleep with the empress can't expose her without exposing themselves, can't oppose her without risking their own positions, can't afford to have her turn against them. You're building a faction within the imperial court that's personally loyal to you rather than to Claudius, a network that will support your interests even when they diverge from your husband's. Your sexual behavior also serves a psychological need that goes beyond simple pleasure or political calculation. You're discovering that you have an insatiable quality, an appetite that grows with feeding rather than being satisfied. Each conquest makes you want another. Each transgression that goes unpunished makes you bolder. The thrill isn't just in the sex itself, but in the power to demand it, to take what you want, to break every rule that's supposed to govern women's behavior. The incident that will define your reputation for 2 millennia happens in 48 AD. According to Pliny the Elder, who claims to have documented the event carefully, you issue a challenge to Scylla, Rome's most famous prostitute. The competition is simple. Who can service more men in a single night? The stakes are your reputation as the most sexually voracious woman in Rome. The contest takes place in a brothel, with you working under a pseudonym, though many of the clients must recognize the empress despite your disguise. For hours, you and Scylla compete, taking client after client, keeping careful count. The stamina required is extraordinary. The degradation an empress of Rome, working as a common prostitute, would be unthinkable for any other woman of your class. After 25 men, Scylla admits defeat and leaves. You, according to the sources, ask for more partners. This detail that you wanted to continue even after winning is what transforms the story from mere scandal to something that suggests compulsion, addiction, a need that cannot be satisfied no matter how many men you consume. Modern historians debate whether this incident actually happened or was propaganda created by your enemies. The Roman sources are hostile, written by men who despised you for transgressing every norm of female behavior. But even if the specific numbers are exaggerated, the story captures something real about your reign, your use of sexuality as both weapon and compulsion, your complete disregard for the dignity of your position, your transformation of imperial power into license for excess. What drives you to such extremes? Is it pure sexual appetite, a need to prove something, rebellion against the constraints of your position? Or have you discovered that being empress means you can do anything, that transgression itself becomes addictive when there are no consequences, that breaking every rule is the only way to feel truly powerful in a world where women are supposed to be powerless? The competition with Scylla isn't just about sex. It's about power, the power to degrade yourself more thoroughly than anyone else can, the power to claim victory in a contest that most women of your class wouldn't dream of entering, the power to shock Rome itself. Your transgressions escalate from affairs to something unprecedented in Roman history. You begin contracting public marriages with other men while remaining married to Claudius and retaining your position as empress. This isn't adultery hidden in shadows. This is formal ceremonial marriage conducted with full ritual and witnessed by Roman citizens. Your most famous bigamous marriage is to Gaius Silius, a handsome senator from an aristocratic family. You don't just sleep with him, you conduct a full wedding ceremony with yourself as bride. You wear bridal costume. There are witnesses, sacrifices to the gods, a marriage contract. All of this happens while Claudius is away from Rome, and you're technically still empress, still legally married to the emperor. The audacity is breathtaking. Marriage in Rome is a legal institution with property implications, inheritance rights, and social meaning. By marrying another man while married to the emperor, you're not just committing adultery, you're challenging the entire legal and social structure of Roman marriage. You're declaring that even the most fundamental rules don't apply to you. What's your motivation? The ancient sources suggest you're planning to replace Claudius with Silius, that this public marriage is the first step in a coup. By marrying Silius with full ceremony, you're positioning him as legitimate emperor, using yourself as the bridge between the old regime and the new. This interpretation makes you not just sexually transgressive, but politically treasonous. But there's another possibility, that you're not planning a coup at all, that you simply don't believe anyone will stop you, that you've become so confident in your untouchability that you think you can marry whomever you want, whenever you want, and remain empress. This interpretation makes you not cunning, but reckless, drunk on power to the point of losing all sense of danger. The marriage to Silius will ultimately be your downfall, but for a brief moment, you achieve something no Roman woman has ever accomplished. You're simultaneously Empress of Rome and wife to another man, holding two marriages that should be mutually exclusive, proving that rules apply to everyone except you. You're not operating alone. Around you, you've cultivated a circle of enablers, participants, and co conspirators who help facilitate your lifestyle and benefit from your patronage. Your household becomes an operations center for sexual excess on a scale that Rome has never seen from a woman, especially not from an empress. Your chief assistants are your freedwomen, former slaves you've elevated to positions of influence and who are utterly dependent on your continued favor. They arrange your encounters, manage your schedule of liaisons, procure new partners, and ensure discretion when needed. These women are both enablers and participants, some reportedly joining you in your activities, others simply facilitating them. You've also gathered a court of young aristocratic men who serve as your lovers, agents, and supporters. These men form a faction within Roman politics, the Messalina faction, united by their personal relationships with you and their shared interest in maintaining your power. They're complicit in your activities because they benefit from them, receiving appointments, wealth, and influence through your patronage. Your sexual network intersects with political power in ways that blur the line between bedroom and Senate. You use sex to reward supporters and punish enemies. Men who please you receive governorships and military commands. Those who displease you face false accusations and property confiscations. You've discovered that female sexuality, when wielded by someone with imperial authority, can be a devastating political weapon. But your network isn't just about power, it's about enabling compulsion. The people around you aren't restraining your behavior, but encouraging it, creating an echo chamber where every excess seems justified, every transgression celebrated. They profit from your lack of restraint, so they have every incentive to push you toward greater extremes. You've transformed the imperial palace into something unprecedented, a center of female sexual agency taken to its most extreme conclusion. Where other Roman women are constrained by law, custom, and male authority, you've broken free of every constraint. But freedom without limits isn't liberation. It's a different kind of prison, one where satisfaction is impossible and escalation is inevitable. The most remarkable aspect of your reign is how long you operate with apparent impunity. Claudius, your husband and emperor, seems either unaware of your activities or unwilling to confront them. This willful blindness requires explanation. How does the most powerful man in the world not know or not act when his wife is conducting public orgies and bigamous marriages? Several factors explain Claudius's passivity. First, he genuinely seems to care for you, or at least to value your political support and partnership. You've been a more engaged empress than he could have expected, and he depends on your involvement in governance. Confronting your behavior would mean losing you as a political asset and partner. Second, Claudius is insecure about his position. He became emperor almost by accident, and he knows many Romans still see him as unfit for power. You come from better lineage than he does. You're descended from Augustus more directly than he is. Challenging you means risking your powerful family's support, potentially destabilizing his regime. Third, the palace culture around Claudius is carefully managed by people loyal to you. His freedmen advisors, Narcissus, Pallas, Callistus, have complex relationships with you. Some are your allies, others your rivals, but none want to be the one who tells the emperor his wife is making him Rome's most famous cuckold. The information he receives is filtered through people who have various reasons to minimize or conceal your activities. Finally, there's the possibility that Claudius knows but doesn't want to know, that he's chosen a comfortable delusion over uncomfortable truth. He's an academic, a historian, more comfortable with books than confrontation. Acknowledging your betrayals would require action he's temperamentally unsuited to take. It's easier to believe the fiction of the dutiful empress than to face the reality of what you've become. But even Claudius's tolerance has limits. When you marry Silius in a public ceremony, crossing from affairs to what looks like political coup, even he cannot ignore it. The question becomes not whether he'll act, but whether he'll act before you've built enough support to replace him entirely. The marriage to Gaius Silius in 48 AD is either a genuine coup attempt or the ultimate expression of your reckless confidence. The historical sources insist it was a conspiracy to replace Claudius, but the evidence is ambiguous. Your behavior suggests either careful plotting or complete loss of perspective about the limits of your power. If it's a genuine coup, you've miscalculated badly. Yes, you've built a network of supporters and lovers throughout the palace and senate. Yes, you have your own faction loyal to you personally. But you haven't secured the Praetorian Guard, the military force that actually controls who sits on the throne. You've confused your ability to transgress socially with the ability to overthrow an emperor politically. If it's not a coup, if you simply believed you could contract a second marriage while remaining empress because no one had stopped any of your previous transgressions, then you've made an even more fundamental error. You've confused getting away with things with being untouchable. The silence of Rome's elite hasn't been approval, it's been shocked paralysis combined with political calculation about when to move against you. The ceremony itself is conducted with full Roman ritual. You wear the bridal costume. Silius accepts you with the traditional words. Witnesses sign the marriage contract. You're not hiding this, you're announcing it to the world. This public quality suggests either supreme confidence or complete disconnection from reality. Claudius is away from Rome when the marriage happens, visiting Ostia. News reaches him through his freedman secretary Narcissus, one of the few people in the palace who's been building a case against you. Narcissus understands that your marriage to Silius represents an existential threat to Claudius's reign, whether you intended it that way or not. A public bigamous marriage by the empress creates a rival emperor, legitimate or not. The question Claudius faces is stark: act decisively against his wife, or wait and potentially face a senate and army that have accepted Silius as new emperor with you as the legitimizing connection to the imperial family. There's no middle ground, no way to handle this quietly. You forced him to choose between his throne and his marriage. Claudius returns to Rome in a rage, or more accurately, Narcissus returns with Claudius, having convinced him that immediate action is necessary. The emperor's freedman has orchestrated everything carefully, knowing that Claudius's natural tendency is to delay and deliberate, that he might lose nerve if given time to think. The Praetorian Guard is mobilized. You're at one of your estates outside Rome when word reaches you that Claudius is returning with troops. This is the moment when you realize you've gone too far, that the protection of your position as empress won't save you, that you've finally encountered a limit to your power. You flee to the gardens of Lucullus, one of your properties. You're with your mother Lepida, who has come to be with you in your final hours. Ancient sources suggest your mother actually encourages you to take your own life with dignity rather than wait for execution, but you can't bring yourself to do it. Despite all your transgressions, you cling to life. The Praetorian Guard arrives. There's no trial, no formal accusation, no opportunity for defense. Claudius has ordered your death, and in imperial Rome, the emperor's word is law. The execution is carried out immediately. You're 22 years old, married to the emperor for approximately 7 years, empress for about 8 years. Your lovers and supporters are rounded up and executed as well. Gaius Silius, your husband, is killed. The network you built is systematically destroyed. Claudius orders that your name never be mentioned in his presence again, that your images be destroyed, that you be erased from history as much as possible. But erasure proves impossible. You're too shocking, too transgressive, too perfect an example of female sexual agency taken to its most extreme conclusion. Ancient historians can't resist writing about you, even though they despise what you represent. You become the template for every story about corrupt empresses, dangerous women, female sexuality as threat to male order. Your children survive, but your daughter Octavia will later be forced to marry Nero and will suffer terribly. Your son Britannicus will be poisoned by Nero. Your bloodline's connection to power becomes a curse that destroys both of them. Messalina becomes a name that echoes through history as a symbol of female sexual excess and dangerous ambition. For 2,000 years, you're cited as the ultimate example of what happens when women gain power without virtue, when beauty and sexuality corrupt rather than complement authority. But modern historians looking at your story face a fundamental problem. Almost every source about you is hostile, written by men invested in portraying you as monstrous. The sex competition with the prostitute. Did it really happen, or is it propaganda designed to destroy your reputation posthumously? The public marriages, were they genuine coup attempts, or were they affairs that hostile sources reframed as treason to justify your execution? Some scholars argue you were a victim of ancient misogyny, that powerful men found you threatening and destroyed you through character assassination. This interpretation sees you as more victim than villain, a woman punished not for real crimes, but for transgressing gender norms in ways that made Roman men uncomfortable. Others contend that even allowing for hostile sources, there's too much smoke for there to be no fire, that you genuinely did engage in extraordinary sexual behavior, that you used your position as empress to pursue appetites that went far beyond normal human desire into the realm of compulsion and addiction. A third interpretation suggests you were neither monster nor victim, but something more complex, a woman who discovered that imperial power could free her from every constraint Roman society placed on women, who tested the limits of that freedom systematically, and who found that even an empress has limits that cannot be transgressed without consequences. Your legacy is ultimately about power and its corruption. You had advantages that no Roman woman before you possessed: imperial position, ancient lineage, beauty, intelligence. You used these advantages to break every rule governing female behavior, whether you were destroyed by jealous men or by your own inability to recognize limits. The result was the same. You became history's most infamous empress, the name that Roman mothers would use to warn daughters about the dangers of female sexuality unrestrained. The ancient moralists saw you as proof that women needed to be controlled, that female desire was dangerous, that power in women's hands led to chaos and destruction. Modern feminists sometimes try to reclaim you as an example of female agency, a woman who refused to accept patriarchal constraints. But perhaps you're neither cautionary tale nor feminist icon. Perhaps you're simply what happens when someone discovers they can do anything, when transgression becomes addiction, when power enables compulsion rather than constraining it. You stood in the center of the Roman Empire as its empress, and you turned that position into license for excess that shocked even Rome, a city not easily shocked.